Okay, so hello and welcome, and this is an exercise guide. So I'll be running through the questions that you've been given and tasked with, and it's always a good idea to do this first, and you can use it as an example. Right, so let me get a whiteboard up here. The first question in section A is asking you for the following. My bad, sorry. The answers will be given. They ask you for the coefficient of p in the following expressions. So the coefficient of p, and I'm just going to select a few. For example, C. C. Okay, C is 5p squared plus p minus 8. What's the coefficient of p? Well, the coefficient of p here is actually 1 because there's a little invisible 1, because you must remember 5p squared is actually 5 multiplied by p squared, or 5 multiplied by p again, right? So let's take that 1 away there. Okay, similarly, p is equal to 1 multiplied by p. And as you know from grade 1, anything multiplied by 1 is equal to itself, which is just p. So if I had 1 times cow, that will just be cow, right? So the coefficient of p in C is coefficient of p in this expression above is 1. Okay, let's take another one. 3q minus p, the coefficient of p over here is just negative 1, is the coefficient of p. Let's do one more. P squared over 4 minus 5p over 2. In this example over here, and this is a tricky one because you need to know how to factor this. When you factor this, you will find that that is just minus 5 over 2 multiplied by p. Therefore, the coefficient of p is negative 5 over 2. And this one here, 3q, is actually b in the first question, and this one over here is going to be e in the first question. Be sure to complete the rest, okay? Similarly, I'm going to do just one example of the table below. They ask you for the variables and also the constant number. So let's take m over 2 plus n over 3. Okay, what are the variables in this question? And this question, by the way, is question 2C. What are the variables? Well, the variables are just m and n. And what are the constant numbers? Constants? Well, there's no constant in this example, right? And similarly, the question does not ask you for it, but I'm going to ask you for it. What is the coefficient of m? Well, m over 2 is just a half m, and n over 3 is the same as saying 1/3 n, right? Because a third times n is the same as saying n divided by 3. So the coefficient, and let's just get some other colors in here. The coefficient in this one of m is a half, and the coefficient here of n is actually a third. Okay, just be very careful with your terminology. That's question number 2C. Question number 3, they ask you for the number of terms, and I'm just going to do the first one with you. Sorry. 11 into 2x plus 3. This is question number 3A. They ask you for the number of they ask you for the terms. Okay, they ask you for the terms and also the number of terms. So each term you're asked to give. And in this case, there's only one term, which is 2x plus 3. 11 into 2x plus 3. If you remember correctly, I spoke about factored expressions. Okay, the number of terms. The number of terms is just one term, and then finally the degree in this case is 1, because the highest exponent of the variable is 1. Okay, this is degree 1. Okay, 3 minus x, similarly you can do the rest. Okay. And the next question 4, they ask you for ascending or descending. They ask you rather for descending powers. Now I'm just going to break this down quickly. I'll talk about ascending powers. Ascending is goes up or increases, right? And this goes down, right? Or it decreases. So if I had 3m squared plus 4m cubed minus 4m plus 8, we ask ourselves about ascending or descending powers. Let's write it in descending powers. Okay, I'm just going to erase that. Let's put it in descending powers. Descending powers will start with 4m cubed plus 3m squared minus 4m plus 8. And you can think of this here as having a variable to the power of 0. So for example, that's 4m to the power of 1, and this will be m to the power of 0, because anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So that's 8 multiplied by 1, which just stays 8. Okay, right. Okay, right. Question 5, they ask you for like terms. I'm not going to dwell on that, but I am going to advise you to watch the next video where I talk about the fundamental counting principle and the language of mathematics. Okay, now let's choose a relevant example in worksheet 2, exercise 1. We are now in worksheet 2, we are doing exercise number 1, and I'm going to select E. E, we are only talking about essential skills here in terms of substitution. Okay, so question E reads as follows: minus x squared minus x squared plus 3x minus 4. Okay, and they tell you evaluate, or give the value of this expression that we see over here, not an equation because there's no equal to sign, it is an expression. Give the value of this expression if x is equal to a third. If x is equal to 1/3. Okay, let's see. If x is equal to a third, what do we get? Right, now we need to substitute, and I know many of you want to do this on your calculator, but I caution you against it. Rather do not use a calculator, because we need to ensure how we do our operations here. Now let's talk a little bit about BEDMAS or BODMAS or PEMDAS, okay? And I'll give you a crash course in order of operations. BEDMAS says you first do your brackets. After you've done your brackets, you do exponents, okay? You do what? Exponents. And then you do division or multiplication, whichever comes first, left to right. Okay? And then addition or subtraction, also in the order of left to right. Now, what do I mean by in the order of left to right? There's no preference whether division comes first or multiplication comes first. Either or. You do whatever's on the left first, then the right one. Similarly, addition and subtraction. Whatever's on the left first, then the right one. Okay? But exponents always come before this. So if we have to substitute, x is equal to negative a third. It's a negative. We're going to put in a third, right? Squared plus 3 multiplied by a third minus 4. And to evaluate this, let's just put an equal to sign there. Let's get an eraser up. Just shorten that. Let's evaluate this. Let's use some red in there. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. So we're going to do the exponent first. So I'm going to leave the negative sign outside. Then I'm going to square the top like so, and I'm going to square the bottom, and I'll get a third over there. I'm going to get 1 over 9. Yeah. Plus 3 times 1 divided by 3 is just 1, or 3 times a third gives you 3/3, which is also just 1, minus 4. And if you look carefully, this is going to be minus multiplied by 1/9, which is negative a ninth, plus 1 minus 4. Okay, so this is, and if you add all of these up, that's going to be minus 4 is minus 3, minus 3 and 1/9. As an improper fraction, that's 3 times 9 is 27, 28 minus 28 over 9. Okay, and that's an example. Now, when you are doing substitution, be very, very careful to remember your BEDMAS or BODMAS rules. If you're using BODMAS, remember that this just gets replaced with an O. There's my O, and then it would represent the word order, which also means the exponent. Okay. Right, so I'm pretty sure you can get through the rest. Determine the values of the following expressions. Question 2, I'm sure you're highly capable of that, as well as question number 3 in exercise 1. And then that concludes worksheet 2. Okay, so let's go on to exercise number 2, also on worksheet 2. Now this here speaks about function notation. They're asking you determine f of 3 if f of x is equal to 8 minus 3x. F of 3 if f of x is equal to 8 minus 3x. So let's break this down. Let's read this. Let's read it. Let's try and read it in a mathematical sense. This is a function, something you throw in, you get something else out. And they want you to evaluate it at x equals 3. In other words, wherever I see x, f of 3 is going to be the following, is equal to 8 x minus 3 times 3, so that's going to be 8 minus 9 is minus 1. What about f of 2? That's just going to be 8 minus 3 times 2, and that's 6, so it's going to be 8 minus 6 is positive 2. What about f of 5? It's going to be 8 minus 3 multiplied by 5. So I think by now you have a clear understanding of what this function notation means if f of x is defined as such. 8 minus 3 times 5, that's 8 minus 15 is going to give you negative 7. So here's another one, last one for now. Let's get a black pen. What about f of cow? That's just 8 minus 3 multiplied by cow. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm not going to stress about exercise worksheet 3 exercise 1. I expect you to do worksheet 3 exercise 1. There's only one exercise, sorry, there's 3 exercises. What I'm going to let you do over there is first watch the next video, which is on the fundamental counting principle, and once you've completed that, you may come back to worksheet 3 exercise 1. Okay, all the best.